Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Executive Policy Committee. Today, as we gather on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Innu and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis, the drinking water. The resource comes from Shoal Lake 40 and Treaty 3 territory. I'm joined today at this Executive Policy Committee meeting of November 18, 2025 by Councillors Santos, Lukes, Duncan, Barwadi, and Eadie, and by Mr. Joe Dunford, our CAO, our clerks, and members of the public service as well, and members of the public. Thank you so much. I think, Madam, I almost said Madam Speaker. I keep saying that of you, Kate, so maybe it's prophetic somewhere in your future, we don't know. Madam Clerk, I think we just need a motion to receive the previous minutes, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, moved by Councillor Barwadi. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving into delegations at this time.
Okay. Our first registered delegation is Councillor Gilroy from the Daniel McIntyre Ward, to be heard with respect to report of the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services, item number 1. And Councillor Gilroy is joining us in person.
Morning, Councillor Gilroy. Welcome.
Good morning, Councillor colleagues. I want to talk to you about the encampment strategy and how we could, I want to push you a little bit further for you to look at maybe doing a motion today that would allow us to look at a managed triage encampment site. I think that the groundwork has been set for what we're going to do around encampments in our city parks. That is clear. I think that there's a huge missing piece, and that is really dealing with the issues that we're seeing out on the streets. You just have to go down Main Street and see where we are at in terms of the amount of homeless people and really the supports that they are required to actually get them housed. So I'm really asking you to today to set a motion to have the city look at a managed triage encampment site that would be a designated area of land where the city would provide some supports like garbage pickup, on-site washrooms, so that we wouldn't see some of the issues we are having around uncleanliness inside our parks. And the whole goal with this is a managed site. There would be an organization on site triaging people into housing, addiction supports, and really holding their hand, which is what is required to get them housed. So that's what I'm asking for you to hear today. I think we set the stage with what we're going to do in encampments. A big missing piece is how we're going to actually get people housed. And the city does play a role. I was recently in Halifax learning what they do. Now theirs is not a managed site, but they do have city services at these sites, which helped control and maintained some of the issues that they were having. But overall, I think at our end goal is actually us to get people housed. And so a managed triage site would actually allow people only to be in this site for very little time, because the whole goal is the organization is there to help hold their hand and get them situated into housing. That is a key component of what we need to do to address the issues that we are seeing out on the streets. And it really is critical to the social economic health of our city. We know that people do not want to come to our downtown. We know that people do not want to come to our city because they are scared of what they're hearing in terms of our unhoused individuals. If we as a city really took a proactive measure on this, we would be able to solve some of the issues that we're having around the social economic lens of our downtown and the health and safety of our downtown. And I really believe that it starts with actually getting people into housing and into the supports that they are required to help make them successful. With me here today is Claude and James. They're going to be speaking. So I want to encourage you. They have lived experience. They actually get people housed, and they have that true lived experience that have been homeless themselves that will be able to really indicate how we can do this. So I encourage you to ask as many questions as you can, because I do think that this is a way forward. I'm scared, and I want to talk to Councillor Duncan right now, because I am terrified that what the policy that we're setting the stage out, without dealing with this, we're going to start to see a lot more people going into our vacant buildings. So it really is critical that we find a way out and a way to get actually people housed and into the support and the required supports that they really need to actually stay housed. Because we all know around this room, it's not necessarily just about the housing. That really requires a lot of different supports, and that includes addiction recovery for those that are really wanting to go that route. And you know, for others that don't want to go that route, they need the encouragement of people like James and like Claude that have had that experience to help show them the way. And so that is what I'm hoping that we can bring with a managed triage encampment site, is people that have that lived experience that can show people the way. And we know that with doing this, we can start to see less people on our streets, start to see what we're seeing on Main Street as a huge issue, and of course the encampments that we're seeing that are set up that have really become an unsafe place for many individuals. And that unsafe place will not stop with our policy. People are still going to have to be somewhere. If they were in a managed site, thank you, I'll finish. If they were in a managed site, we would not see the chaos of encampments that we see today.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, Councillor Eady?
Thank you for your presentation, Councillor Gilroy. You're doing great work taking the lead on this for where it's especially sensitive in our inner city, not just downtown, but the whole inner city is having a bigger problem with encampments, although they are all over Winnipeg. So you were in Hamilton and, or Halifax, sorry, pardon me.
Yeah.
You're in Halifax. Now, there has been concern raised about that type of managed encampment site that it's made to be quite comfortable, where people are not actually in tents, they're staying in, I don't know, some sort of mini building or something, or so if we moved ahead with a plan like this, are we looking to make it convenient for someone to be living out there, or are we, you know, how are we doing that, Councillor Gilroy?
No, the vision of it is that people would be in the tents that they have now. And just to be clear, Halifax was not a managed site. It was just a designated area that the city provided, along with garbage collection and washrooms. So it was not managed. So they still see some of the chaos that we see within our encampments. The whole idea is have an organization come in and manage the encampment, have a designated site with city services like a washroom, like garbage cleanup, which we do anyways, so it'd be very little cost to the city, and hopefully have those discussions, hopefully our mayor can have those discussions with the province on bringing some funding supports to actually do the triage that is needed inside those encampments, to make sure that we're breaking down the barriers to actually get people housed while they're in these encampments. The idea isn't that this encampment would be there forever. The idea is these people would be kind of coming into this encampment, triaged, and then housed.
Just one more follow-up question. You mentioned it. The way things are working now, there are other levels of government. So if this concept was to move ahead, it's totally understood, right, that we have to have buy-in from the province and the feds in regards to dealing with the encampments?
Absolutely. I'm not saying that we're going to work on this alone, but the governments are focusing on their piece of things. So they are focusing federally, and they are focusing provincially on some of these things. I think missing piece is, what are we going to do, right? And so this could really set the stage to fit in nicely into the work that they're doing with Our Way Home and housing first. So I really see this as kind of the missing link that we have, and the city could really be taking the ownership on that piece.
Okay. You bet. Councillor Lukes?
For your presentation. Have you talked to anyone from the province about this?
Yeah, the province is, what I hear, is somewhat interested in this. My hope is I'm not the lead here at the city to go and talk to the province. So my hope is that with a motion, our mayor would do that work on behalf of the city and really see if this is something that they'd be interested in.
Did you draft a motion?
I did not draft a motion, but I could do that really easily if you needed me to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just wondering, thank you for this, Councillor. In your sense, then, what is, you mentioned a little bit of it, what's the responsibility in the managed encampment?
Yeah.
What's the responsibility of the province? What's the responsibility of the city? What's the responsibility of some third-party agency?
So I see that in a managed encampment, we would take care of all the municipal things like garbage collection, washrooms. I know that there is hydro on site. I'm not sure how easy that would be. That might be a discussion we have with the province. And then I do see that we do provide outreach support. So some of the outreach support that we actually provide could be used to help with the cost inside these encampments. And then the province would help with the triaging stuff, the connecting with the housing and the addiction supports, and have that piece, the province bring in some funding for that. So, and I think the organization that manages it would be the core organization that knows how to kind of connect with the individuals, break down the barriers, and be able to give them access to the different supports that are out there.
And who handles security?
The security would be handled, I think, by the organization that would get the award of contract. I think that they're better able to address that issue. I know, for example, I'm going to use Straight Links because that they're the ones I know an example of. They use an Indigenous-led organization that does security for their buildings. So I think we would maybe leave that up to the organization to figure out.
Okay. Thank you for this. Appreciate it. Thank you
Okay.
very much. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Perfect, thank you.
Our next delegation, Councillor Orlikow, is not able to join us this morning, so we will move on.
You go ahead, Kate. Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead, Kate.
Okay, so our next delegation is Kate Fensky, CEO of the Downtown Winnipeg Biz, to be heard with respect to the Winnipeg and Parking Mobility Strategy, item 1 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today for the Parking and Mobility Strategy. On behalf of the Downtown Biz, we really do welcome the city taking a strategic approach to parking and appreciated the opportunity for consultation over the last several months and the last few years that this has been worked on. On November 6th, I had the chance to bring forward comments to the Public Works Committee. What I want to reiterate here today is that parking and mobility play an important role in shaping how people experience our downtown. We want to ensure that residents, visitors, and workers can access downtown easily by removing barriers and not creating them. The reality is that downtown continues to face challenges. As noted on page 9 of the strategy, on-street parking has not yet returned to pre-pandemic levels. When considering the implementation, I want to stress how important it is not to put everything on the backs of downtown. It is critical for the economic health of our city that we don't discourage people from coming downtown, which continues to experience significant changes, disruption, and unintended consequences because of city decisions, including the closure of Graham Avenue, the Winnipeg Transit Master Plan, and the removal of pay stations for on-street parking. I shared this message with the Public Works Committee, but I want to repeat it here as well. There should be no increase to paid parking of any kind downtown, whether it be rates, time of day of the week, or otherwise, before the expansion into other areas has been explored and implemented where needed. One question we are still looking for clarity on is what is the city's position and policy on paid parking? When asked at committee, there wasn't necessarily agreement. The strategy points to paid parking as a tool to generate turnover, but members of the committee also referred to paid parking as a means to generate revenue. both could be true. The timeline for implementing this strategy is years, and we would urge moving forward more quickly. In the meantime, we ask that you consider other ways to support downtown businesses through changes to parking. How about introducing free Fridays for an interim? An idea from a Graham Avenue business that has been severely impacted by the drop in foot traffic because of the transit changes and the 100,000 people that are no longer there on a daily basis. Offering 2 hours of free parking is a great opportunity to encourage folks to visit downtown, especially on days where some streets feel like a ghost town because so many people seem to be working from home. During the pandemic, free parking was used as a tool to help support businesses. And as I said earlier, parking downtown has not returned to pre-pandemic levels. One of the biggest policy shifts we were hoping to see in the strategy did not make the cut. And I'm here today to ask you to reconsider. For years, we've been advocating for the adoption of parking benefit districts, which would see a portion of parking revenue reinvested back in the area that it is collected to fund improvements. When we look at the spiffy garbage cans that recently have popped up on Portage and Main, thank you, Mayor Gillingham, and to the Public Works Department for getting that done. But we were told that there were not enough funds to replace the rest of the sad-looking garbage cans downtown. A parking benefit district could improve the things we know that Winnipegs care about and show that downtown is cared for, just like any other neighborhood in the city. At committee, I shared the example of the Forks. It now reinvests parking revenue into amenities, infrastructure, public art, activations, and improvements to make the Forks an even better destination that people want to visit. We know it is more palatable to pay for parking with the knowledge that it is improving the place that you are visiting. Calgary has a formal parking revenue reinvestment program. 10% of the net revenue collected is used to fund improvements in business improvement areas. In 2024, Calgary Downtown BIA received more than $480,000 to support projects that make streets more walkable and pedestrian-friendly, improve infrastructure, and create lively and well-used neighborhoods. Other Canadian cities, including Edmonton and Halifax, are also exploring similar models. I do want to stress that parking benefit district revenue reinvested in a zone should remain separate and distinct from other operating grants or levy payments the BIZ receives. It is a different system. It would be to improve and enhance city infrastructure. Overall, we are very pleased with the strategy. With a few adjustments, we believe you can remove some of the barriers and also create opportunities that support local businesses and make downtown a place that people want to visit, work, live, and explore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kate, just want to express my appreciation for your ongoing advocacy and your partnership and always bringing to us as a council the needs of and ideas of your members. We really appreciate the dialogue and the working together on stuff on these matters, and thank you for the ideas as well. So look into that. Councillor Bawadi.
Thank you very much, Kate, for the work you do within your organization. I'm a little surprised to hear your change of tone today. I mean, I've gone with you in the past. We've done, tours of the downtown with parking gurus, and I think we agreed that, yes, this block face over here in the Exchange District, it probably maybe doesn't even need paid parking at all. This area over here needs paid parking, but I mean, in our Shed District, in our Theatre District over here, I mean, in the evening, if you have a family that goes to a Moose game, they tie up all the parking around the Shed District, and people can't go to the restaurants and the bars in the area because Moose customers, for example, are taking all the free parking on the street. Do you not support, based on parking principles, the idea of demand pricing and those concepts, or now is it just your members have said we don't like change and we want to keep status quo, period?
Nope, not at all. Haven't changed my tune. When we look at in terms of what parking is and paid parking is for, it is to generate turnover, as you pointed out. And so it is important that we do collect the data. That is part of the strategy. What we're saying is that if you are looking at evening parking, it's important that you're not adding more on the backs of businesses before exploring other methods and other ideas. So when you're collecting the data, for example, other streets that also don't have turnover right now. I just bought this suit at a great little shop, Boutique on Cordon, last week. I couldn't find parking. So when you're looking for 2 spots per block, as the strategy states, it is really important. So we're looking at that as a whole, which a strategy is meant to do for the city of Winnipeg. And we just want to make sure that it's not always looking at downtown to create revenue for the rest of the city before looking at the whole picture.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Okay, well, Councillor Lutz?
No, I just want to thank you for coming to Public Works and having that discussion at
Yeah.
Public Works. I made comments after to the media, which I still stand by. And I do think sometimes a carrot and a stick approach has to be taken, and I do think we need to look at other areas of the city for the paid parking and maybe someday the potential of revenue generation from it. So that is kind of laid out in the plan, right, to look at all of that. Not tomorrow, but to look at it soon. So we have to keep encouraging that to move along.
And I think, you mentioned the reinvestment of revenue with that. When we look at how to sequence this potentially, I think that is something that can come first. You can show the benefits of reinvesting parking revenue into a neighborhood and show that it is a way to make improvements. So I think that's something that could come first, and then explore, what are the hours, the days, the rates throughout the city that are required to generate turnover and potentially revenue as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay. Our next delegation is Kelly Ryback, to be heard in opposition to item 1 of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works and item 3 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste and Environment. And Kelly is joining us in person.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you, and I have provided copies. I did submit slides for PowerPoint that if you want hard copies, I have those here. I'll refer to later on in the presentation. Thank you for this opportunity, and I do stress, yes, any parking strategy definitely cannot be a deterrent or to discourage people from parking downtown, but likewise, it should not be a deterrent or discourage or impact businesses in the unpaid areas outside of downtown. My challenge first with the report is that the engagement was with the paid area biz zones, did not include the unpaid area biz zones. And going forward, if they have doing consultation with biz groups, that's only a portion of the commerce in the city. In the case of St. James, Assiniboia, where I reside, that the St. James Village biz is only from St. James Street to approximately Bruce Park. And that's like, you could walk that in a short period of time. There's still hundreds of businesses in St. James not represented by the St. James Village biz, and they'd be left out. This summer, there was, the Winnipeg Parking Authority was looking at putting in restrictions on Collegiate Street, which is right by the intersection of Portage and Ferry Road. The law firm, the jewelry store, the chiropractor, the accountants in that area, they sent letters in August to the Winnipeg Parking Authority opposing that for the same reasons they would oppose paid parking on Portage Avenue in St. James, that it would inconvenient to restrict customers, add to their cost of doing business and discouraging people from visiting. I took the opportunity to meet with several businesses in the St. James Village biz and members of the Assiniboine Chamber of Commerce, of which I have dual membership in, and came up at a recent Chamber of Commerce meeting, and 100% every single one is opposed to putting any paid parking into the St. James area. They don't believe that turnover is an issue, that those places like the St. James Legion, the St. James Bowling Alley, where they have parking, their own parking on the opposite side of the back lane, that if there's paid parking on Portage Avenue and the neighboring streets, that people visiting other locations would be parking in their parking lots, and they either would inconvenience their customers by taking up capacity in the parking lot, or now they have to put in process to track license plates and possibly engage towing, which is not what they want to do, but they also want to protect their own investment in the parking lots that they have. One business said this would add to their cost of sale, and they already compete globally, so it would put them at a competitive disadvantage with if they're being, people having to pay for parking or pay parking tickets. Customers are thinking, if I have to pay for parking, I just won't go there. And the current parking authority not enforcing what's in place. They all have 1 and 2 hour parking time limits. It's not being enforced in the St. James area. I'll get to some examples later on, but one in particular that was raised by a retailer at corner of Portage and Barrie. There's a person who frequently parks a car at the intersection with a for sale sign and a phone number on it, and it stays there all day, several times. Okay? They just don't think it's going to be fair, and especially, my concern is as a member of the St. James Legion and a frequent visitor to Deer Lodge, I think it'd be detrimental to people visiting those locations. They view it as just another transportation demand management tactic to make driving less convenient. Now, if I go to my slides, if you want to either open those up because they're online, or if you want a paper copy here. The first thing is about accessibility, particularly in the downtown and Exchange area. You want to make it more accessible and more convenient, fix what's broken. The snowbanks don't get removed. In St. James and in other areas, Portage Avenue, Corydon, the snowbanks are removed only once a year. And that is detrimental to people trying to visit that area and use those businesses. You have parking that's saying you can park here, but it's right in front of a fire hydrant. And there are folks, because the parking says you can park here with the arrows in place, are parking in front of fire hydrants. On Corydon, example, you come out of your vehicle, you got to step into a pile of mud because there's a flower bed right there. And one of my other pet peeves, right in the Exchange area, you park in a legitimate parking spot, and you can't open your door because there's a bike rack there. You want to improve accessibility in the areas and make it better for people, please address those. On the next page, this is what I talked earlier about things not being enforced. These are examples in St. James that they're not. In front of the Westwood Library, Sharp Boulevard right off Portage Avenue, and all throughout Portage Avenue. And specifically to the one on Sharp Boulevard is there's parking spots, angled parking right by Wojcik's Funeral Home. The Winnipeg Parking Authority issued residential parking permits. I'm very close to wrapping up. If I can get 1 minute, that's
Okay,
all
1
I
minute
need.
to wrap up. Someone to move 1 minute. Councilor Lukes moves a minute.
Thank you, appreciate that. City parking, 2-hour time limits, and the Winnipeg Parking Authority issued residential parking permits for 2 vintage cars from the apartment across the street of Portage Avenue to park in this location. That is unacceptable. In the past, I've had multiple examples where I've had to report illegal and derelict vehicles parked for days and weeks to 311, and they get ticketed, then I had to follow up, so they get a second ticket, then I had to follow up, so they get towed. Multiple times, 2 of them were escalated by then Councillor Gillingham. One I showed to Councillor Duncan, and this happens continuously, that if I'm driving down Portage and I'm just by my 180-degree sight of vision can see these, what is the Winnipeg Parking Authority doing when they're driving up and down the streets if they're not doing their job? And, well, I take this, and 2 other examples. Like 2 quick examples on one thing.
Sorry, we gave you a minute.
Right.
We have other delegates as well.
There should not be parking enforcement in front of the St. James Legion taking a spot away from a vet. Thank you.
Any questions at all for Mr. Ryback? Councillor Duncan, then Councillor Eady.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Sorry, I'm just flipping back and forth between your... Okay, so you had mentioned off the hop that you agree with the last delegate about paid parking shouldn't be strictly in the downtown. It should be in the other...
I disagree with parking being outside of the downtown area.
So it strictly should be in the downtown.
Just what I'm hearing from as a customer of numerous businesses in unpaid parking areas and speaking with several businesses in those areas, we're all opposed to putting new paid parking in those areas. And particularly another example would be in and in front of Assiniboine Park, inside Assiniboine Park and in front of on Portage Avenue, across from the Assiniboine Chamber of Commerce, across from Sergeant Sunday.
Should or
and
should
other
not, sorry?
locations. Pardon me?
Should be?
Should not.
Should not. Okay.
Should not.
So is there anywhere else in the city of Winnipeg that paid parking should be implemented?
I'm representing for St. James.
You're not the
I'm not aware, I can't think
Sorry,
of an
Mr.
area.
Ryback, you're not the representative of St. James, that's Councillor Dobson.
No, no.
Where else in the city of
To the
Winnipeg?
people that I've spoken to,
If you could, where else in the city of Winnipeg should paid parking be?
I don't know, because I'm opposed to it.
You don't know.
What are you saying
You
where
have
there
not
should be, and I'm
single-
saying there shouldn't be.
Not a single other example.
Let's see what,
List the street, anything.
No, I don't think we should expand
Okay.
it outside where it is.
So then you also say in your presentation here, which is a stretch, but that we should be removing all of the windrows on the sidewalks. Where are we going to fund that from? Could you give me a source of where we would add to the snow clearing budget, please?
You can allocate money as you do in the budget, and you can find savings
Allocate
in other
money.
ways.
So
You
the
can make
snow clearing
changes.
budget, Mr. Ryback, strictly comes from taxpayers,
Yep.
right? So are we going to raise taxes? Is that what you're suggesting?
I can say you can improve where you're spending money. and
You're
you can- and
asking
you can
for
make
all the
savings.
windrows on all the streets in the city of Winnipeg to be cleared. Where would we
No,
find
no,
money
I
for
did
that?
not ask for all the windrows on all the streets.
So
In
then
commerce
all the paid
areas, on the
parking
main
locations
arteries.
downtown,
And
you're
then,
asking
and then after this question, I'll move to council.
I've answered the question.
you give these well-thought-out presentations, Mr. Ryback. I just want to know, where are we going to generate more revenue from? And where are we going to find the monies to fix all these
I
problems?
would
that we
challenge
clearly
city
point-
council to have better, improved performance and change their spending habits
Okay,
first
so
in order to
please
do it.
provide an example of that, if I may.
Well, I can tell you that city workers, in many cases, do not work at the pace of private contractors, being more expensive. You know, there's areas of where spending could be reduced.
So,
That's for a budget review discussion.
so, Counselor, I'm going to go to Counselor Edie. Thank you.
Before I ask my question, I'm just going to make one comment. The people you see standing around waiting are private contractors. There's like 6 people standing around over by a hole dug into the ground. Used to be city workers that were standing around, waiting around. Now it's the private contractors. So I think you should be careful when you start talking about the city's public servants. Anyway, I'm trying to understand, what is, you're opposed to report 3, which is recycling options for community events?
No, that I was in favor of, if it was
You're in
stated.
favor of that, okay.
Because, you know, I'm on the board of a St. James Assiniboine Pioneer Association, and we don't have recycling bins on site permanently. When we hold an event, we have our own small blue bins and blue material bags. Then I take them all up and I put them in my blue bin at home. So I do, or green, and I do encourage that. Our frustration is, we've asked multiple times and even made a request to Recycling Anywhere, and we didn't get any responses to have bins for our major event or have bins there permanently. And it's a problem, but I would support absolutely any opportunity for community events to recycle, because you walk down, if they're not having it, there's garbage cans full of plastic bottles and aluminum cans.
Yeah.
So I do, and time limit didn't allow me to get to that.
Yeah, we did get a presentation from somebody who works under that hat of the Recycle Everywhere. They were saying that they do and can provide resources for community events to recyclable materials. So,
Yeah, and we pursued that, but maybe with the timelines, we didn't get a response or able to do it, but we did take it upon ourselves to make sure we had recycling available for the hundreds of people that showed up that day.
okay.
So I do that. As for your response to your earlier comment, I can give you examples of where the city workers doing the same work as contractors, and it's taking longer, or they do it with larger teams. So, but I'm just saying, there are opportunities to save and change your spending habits in order to
Yeah,
provide improved
okay.
service.
Yeah, all right.
So,
Thank
It's
you.
not the
Just
experience
to-
I get when I get the phone calls. So
Thank you, thank you very much. Just to, one question, just to correct something you said. Are you aware that, I think you indicated in your statement that the city only clears the snow storage snow piles once a year? That's not correct. Are you aware that the city clears the snow piles as needed in accordance with our policy, and that's
there's only been one time
all depends on the amount of snow that falls.
last winter, as far as a complete snowbank snow clearing on Portage Avenue, was only done once.
That's different than the snow is only cleared once a year.
No, I'm not, yeah, no, I know
So,
the
okay, well,
streets now, I'm just talking about the actual snowbanks.
The snowbanks are cleared more than once a year if necessary. Are you aware of that?
Well, I've only seen it once a year, and I'm tracking multiple years based on Cord and St. James on Portage Avenue and other streets.
Thank you. If you don't mind submitting your tracking of you said you tracked that multiple years, just send it to my office. I'd be interested to see
Yeah.
that, please. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, our next delegation is Marion Willis, and Marion is joining us via Zoom. So Marion, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and turn on your video, you have up to 5 minutes. And this is with respect to item 1 of the Standing Policy Committee on Community Services report.
Good morning, welcome, thank you for your patience. Yes, go ahead, Marion.
Yes, good morning, Mayor Gillingham and Council. I'm here today to ask you to please give very serious consideration to the motion that Councillor Gilroy has put forth. I have sent all of you a pretty comprehensive document that lays out 3 pillars representing sort of a shared governance model, one city, one goal to end homelessness. It outlines very clearly what a managed encampment to housing site might look like. It is not a place that provides a comfortable place for people to stay. The mandate's in the name, managed encampment to housing. I know that everybody's really concerned about costs and who would fund what. I can tell you that End Homelessness Winnipeg has reached out to me. I didn't reach out to them. And they are planning a meeting with me in the coming days to discuss how we can collaborate on this. I also believe that the province will be interested in this as well. I don't think that this is a big spending item. I think it's about government looking at the 3 pillars, coming together with a shared governance model, realigning how they spend money. Main Street Project is the service provider for Your Way Home through the provincial strategy. The city and the encampment issue, those are citizens on municipal lands. We are your encampment to housing experts. That's what we've done for you for the last 3.5 years, and I don't think we've let you down. And End Homelessness Winnipeg is resourced through the Reaching Home Agreement. And if we can all come together, we can make this happen just by realigning ourselves. Yes, there's 3 different pillars. There's 3 different approaches. There's one goal, ending homelessness. That's what unites us. I know, and I know that you're policymakers, but you need to understand we are the experts in this. And I mean, our sector are all experts in this, but we're in those encampments all the time. We know who's out there. And I know, and mark my words, if we don't come up with some way to fast track people into housing, you're going to have more fires this winter as people look for vacant and boarded up buildings to move into. They'll set fires to keep warm. You're going to see people in ATM vestibules. You're going to see them in parkades. You're going to have a problem that maybe you don't foresee at this point, but I know how this is going to play out. We can't be moving, taking away encampments and moving people, pardon me, further into the fringe and, putting people in an even deeper state of survival mode. Halifax acted very quickly. They responded to a crisis. And when they decided they were going to take action, they got it together in weeks, not months. Let's not wait for the crisis. Let's be proactive and let's take advantage of the 3 pillars. Let's bring everybody together, not try to force everybody into one box here. Let's play to the strengths of governments, of outreach organizations, and let's get people out of encampments and into housing. There is housing. Our organization housed 3 people yesterday, and over the next 15 days, we will house upwards of 25 people. If you'd like to come and look at our housing board, I invite you to do that. We have a different style of housing, but I think with the public housing, with private market housing, with End Homelessness and their Housing First program and their coordinated access, if we can pull this all together, we can work together and we can develop and implement a highly impactful, and impactful means outcomes-based model to end homelessness.
Thank you very much, Marion, to you and to your team. I know you have a big and dedicated team as well, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. Just one question. I know that you've been in discussions in the past with the province. I'm just wondering, have you been able to speak to the province yet, specifically about this concept? I'm just wondering if you've been able to.
Oh, yes, I have, actually. So
Okay.
Lana, Many Gray Horses, she's the Assistant Deputy Minister. She and I've had some discussions
Okay.
on this. She's received the same documents that you have. I am a guest at the throne speech this afternoon, and I do anticipate perhaps having some opportunity after to maybe have some conversations, but I will be looking to the province to see if they're willing to commit to something like this in the coming days. But I know that it isn't just the city alone. I know that End Homelessness Winnipeg is very interested in this. And two partners is better than no partners. And I have every reason to believe that the city or the province will come on board. It's just that nobody has the budget to carry this on their own. And I don't think that this is a project that requires a whole lot of big spending. I think the money's there. It's really how we align the three levels of government and how we look at what money we do have and how we spend it. Province has already $13 to $15 million between the provincial and federal government into a Main Street project. Their team is well established to do general outreach. What we're talking about here is something very specific. It's encampment to housing. We are the team that does that the best. And then there's End Homelessness Winnipeg. They have their Housing First model. And if we and they have outreach teams that they support. If we could just all come together and align without trying to fit people into boxes they don't fit into, we would actually have one city, one model. We would actually get this done. And the outcomes are going to be desirable outcomes, I fear. And actually, I know, sadly, that if we don't do this and we just force people out of tents and encampments, we are not going to improve public safety. We are going to jeopardize public safety.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Eady has a question.
Yes, and before I ask my question, I just want to thank St. Boniface Street Links and your team of experts at assisting people getting into homes. Really appreciate that, and I was really encouraged. I had met with End Homelessness, as I had mentioned to you, and they were quite interested in how your approach is working and stuff, so it sounds great that you're looking at working with them. That's excellent. My question is, like, okay, so you're out there, how many managed encampments to housing or triage areas, I'd call them, how many do you think would be required in order to, well, really, we don't want anybody out there, right? So, like, do you have any idea how many we'd need?
Yeah, I think we would start with one, and I think that you would populate it by highlighting those very high-risk encampment communities and moving them in community by community, no more than 20 tents at a time, and just really making those individuals the highest priority for housing. And then I think in fairly short order, we will have some idea about whether this is going to work. I have provided you with a very comprehensive set of documents. I hope you take the time to read them. Yep. It answers pretty much all of these questions. It provides an emergency response to get us through until March 31st. And then we've also developed a very large document that actually scales this up, as something that could run year round. And the whole idea is that nobody is to be in this triage center for months on end. It's into the triage center. We actually have a tiny home that the University of Manitoba built us last year. And that could actually be moved on site. It's wired, it's got heaters in it. It just needs to be hooked up to power. And if we had a dedicated team on site working in this triage center, we would get people housed. Honestly, our team will tell you, we know most people out there. I can count on 5 fingers and probably name the people who are going to decline housing. Everybody wants to be housed. They're just really tired of being on a housing wait list. We don't create a wait list. We get in there, we do the work. Our approach is a little bit different. It's not better than others. It's just that we're very focused on encampment to housing. That's always been our game. I really believe this is going to work. And I know that because it's what we do. It's just it becomes easier for us to do it because we're actually bringing people into a managed environment where there's control variables that's very focused. Like I said, the mandate's in the name. Our team is really good at doing this work, and we built a housing network that supplies the housing. Well, everybody says we have a housing shortage. I actually have 9 vacancies in one building right now. I have 7 in another. I've been offered another 5-bedroom, which I haven't taken on. I'm being offered so much housing right now through the private sector that I can't really take it on because I don't know how I'm going to manage it all.
So I
So
just-
we need to have partners. We need to move forward. I know this is doable. It's not a huge risk for the city to do this. You have nothing to lose and you have everything to gain. I'm going to echo what Councillor Gilroy tried to say. I've learned this over the years. I've worked in reserve communities. I've worked in rural Manitoba. I've worked in the highest levels of government, and I've worked in the trenches. The economic well-being of any city in any region is always going to be somewhat contingent on the social health of the people. Given the state of homelessness in the city of Winnipeg, the economic well-being of this city is largely contingent on the social well-being of people. Let's not wait for a crisis. Let's do something now proactively, and let's get people off the streets and off the riverbanks and out of tents and into housing.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you,
entirely
Mayor.
doable.
Thank you,
Mayor.
thank you. I see we have a couple other delegates. I do want to get to them as well, but thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate that. Thank you. And we appreciate the ongoing work you and your team are doing. Thank you.
Okay, our next delegations are joining us in person, and I have James Audie and Claude Baghetti. Also from St. Boniface Street Links.
Thank you. And you gentlemen can come one at a time or come forward together, whatever you prefer. Doesn't matter.
I'll go first.
Yeah, sure.
My name is James Audie. I'm an outreach support worker for St. Boniface Street Links. I want to give you a little background on my history, my background. I've been an addict since I was 9 years old. And then when I moved to Winnipeg, I fell in and out of the justice system, in and out of jail. I was an addict to meth for 14 years. I was an addict to heroin and fentanyl for 5. I eventually landed myself in Waterfront myself, right? And this organization gave me all the tools to give me my dignity back and help me step by step with my recovery. And I just want to start off with saying with the banned encampments, all these people are already in survival mode. And if you just take away their encampments, then you're going to see a different state of survival mode. You're going to see like the true definition of survival mode. People hanging out in lobbies, stairwells. There'll be more fires, more residential break-ins, abandoned houses. Like it's just gonna snowball effect, right? But if you have it in managed encampment housing site, like giving these people, most of these people just don't. They get overwhelmed, and there's so many barriers with getting housing, with even just seeing a doctor or mental health, any issue like that, right? So if you have this managed encampment housing for the triage, like we could understand their situation and try to get through the barriers and set them up with housing.
Appreciate that. Thank you, James. Thank you for not only your story and for being here, but also for the work you're doing to help others. You understand the path they're on because you've been there. So that means a lot.
Honestly, with me, it's like I love what I do, and then when I go into like Waterfront or something like that, like I know these people going in there, and they used to call me Dice, and they all say like, "Yo, you're the last person I ever thought would ever sober up," right?
Yeah.
So it gives them a little bit of hope that they could do it too.
That's great. I think that just your own story is why everyone, all of us at different levels of government and nonprofits and, the St. Boniface Street Links, the Siloams, the Marions, Willis's of the world, the Main Street Project, everyone is doing what they're doing because you're the living example of things can turn around
Yes.
with the right support. So again, can't underestimate the power of what you do, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions at all for James? Councillor Santos.
Thank you for coming out. I don't know if it was yourself or the other delegate that was speaking about the shelter system. Are you able to kind of talk about going in and why you chose, to live on waterfront and not in some of our shelters?
Oh, honestly, the shelters is like completely chaotic. It's chaotic. You don't know what's going to happen there. And all these people, you got to be mindful that they're all carrying weapons and stuff, right? And it's like, it's actually really dangerous, especially if someone vulnerable is going to jump right in there. It could be really dangerous, right? So being in waterfront, it seemed more safer for me, right? Until this organization came. And honestly, when I met this organization, they told me, pack up your stuff tomorrow, we're going to be housing you. And I didn't believe them, I thought they were like other outreach team out there that just hand out coffee and, give you a sandwich and then take off, right? But next day, sure enough, they came, helped me pack all my stuff and moved me in.
And that was going to be a follow-up question. All the other outreach organizations who've come down to Waterfront to check up on you, nobody else offered you housing except for St. Boniface Street Links?
Yes, yes. Honestly, I wasn't even on EIA the whole 10 years I was living in Winnipeg until St. Boniface Street Links came and helped me out with that.
Mm-hmm. And would you say in the housing that you were put in through St. Boniface Street Links, that was obviously not social housing, that was more of private? Could you explain how you transitioned into housing?
Honestly, I wasn't ready for the recovery part. They tried to get me to do the program, the Morbid House for recovery, but I wasn't ready at that point, right? So they put me in a low barrier housing and everything, and I kind of messed it up, being I was into gangs and stuff like that. But in the back of my mind, they planted the seed for recovery, and then that moment I wanted help, they reacted quickly and got me in there.
And how many months are you sober now?
The 29th, I'll be 2 years sober.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's very humbling to hear something like that, especially here in front of EPC and my council colleagues, to share your lived experience, because that is really what we're seeing today, is that lived experience and sharing it. And from the bottom of my heart, I really, really appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Oddie.
Okay, and then just for the record, and next up is Claude Baguetti, also from St. Boniface Street Links.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. My name is Claude. I do work for St. Boniface Street Links. So I've gone through the same thing too. I've been homeless, been through gang, been a intravenous user, has fentanyl, meth. But what I went through as homeless, being in encampments for 10 years and being a drug addict was that, okay, sorry, I'm nervous.
No, it's great.
Okay.
Just have a conversation with me. You're good.
Okay, so like the managed encampment site, I think is a great idea for people, like if I was still on the streets, which I'm not, I'm out there trying to help the individuals that I personally know, because I've been there and that I've used with these people. I did a lot of things with them, and one thing about taking out encampments was if you're going to take out encampments, and if you're going to take out my place, I would go find somewhere like to use, like if I was still using, I would be in the stairwell or right in the skywalk. I'd be shooting up. I'd be smoking my bubble right inside, right in anywhere, right in the food court. You know what I mean? I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if it would put me in jail. Fine, it's a nice warm place. I got bed, whatnot. But with a managed encampment site, with a team like ours that know these people that are in there, they trust us because we build relationships with these people. The ones that we don't know, we'll get right down with them, you know, we'll sit there, we'll have a conversation. An individual that's, you know, that's going through a lot and is why they're living the way they are, is they just need somebody to listen, you know? And that's what Streetlinks gave me. They sat in the bus shack with me, and they chatted with me, and they asked me if there was anything I needed, you know? They got me on welfare a few times. They got me housed like 4 times. But that time, the times they housed me, I buggered those up, right? Because I was into gangs and using a lot, and I turned my places into traps, you know. But they offered me, they constantly, you know, offered me recovery, but I didn't take it until you know finally, like these guys, they care, they really care, because I knew some of the ones that were working. They were in the same boat I was, you know, and I know them personally, where they were today, where they are now, and then I'm like, oh, I want to be like these guys, you know, I want to be working with them one of these days, you know. Lo and behold, you know, I'm working with them, doing the same thing they did for me. So, yeah, so imagine encampment site would be an amazing idea, you know, if we were to put that forward and get these people the help they need. It'll change their lives, you know. They just need somebody to be there for them and hold their hands as they go to, when we take them to the RAM clinics, you know. Yeah, because you can't just drop them off, because they'll get registered, and then you got to come back at 12. But that little window there, 3-hour window, they're so sick, you know, because you can't use for 24 hours before that. They're going to go find their fix, and they're not going to make their 12 o'clock, you know. So if you're there the whole time and, you know, take them for coffee, whatnot, and then be there at 12 o'clock and get them seen, that still takes another 3 hours for them to get seen. But, you know,
Well,
a lot of care
yeah, well,
goes a long way.
sincerely, thank you for, as I said a moment ago, like I said to James, thank you for what you're doing, because you're doing work that none of us could ever do, because you've walked that road. Curious, a little bit off maybe topic of this, but for you, and maybe you can't answer this today, but years ago, when Claude was younger, when you were younger, what could have put your life on a different trajectory? What could have, you know, what did you need years ago that would have kept you from using and joining gangs?
Someone, like what I'm doing right now is I'm going into schools, I'm going into reserves whenever I can, right?
Yep.
To go speak to these kids about the life I went through, and to convince them that, you know, you could if to avoid that, you know. You're very young, and the life I went through, you don't have to do that, you know. You could stop it there, and you don't have to wait 47 years to smarten up, you know. You could, where I'm at now, you know, I tell them all the accomplishments I've done. I'm 2 years and 1 month sober now, right?
Congratulations.
I'm no longer in the justice system. I got married, you know. I've done so many accomplishments. I'm a 1-year sun dancer, 2-year Gijita dancer, you know. I sponsor like 5 people on AA, you know. I do a lot of great things, and I tell the kids that you could do this too, you know, but just, you know, just don't even go where the route I did, you know. You might just stick with the people that are good, you know. Like don't stray off to, because you're gonna end up where I was, and it's just not a good road, you know.
Important message. Thank you for all you do. Yeah, we're humbled to be in your presence today. We really are. So thank you.
Good.
Any other questions? Councilor Santos.
I think it was yourself that had mentioned about one specific incident, a police officer had
Oh,
hit you.
yeah.
Could you share that story again with us? about
Okay,
the interaction with the
this,
police?
I
It was
was,
a good interaction with the police.
okay, I was 17 years old. I was involved in the gangs and drinking. I was already kicked out of school. And a police officer pulled me over. You know, I was walking with a group of us, and I ended up stabbing the police officer. But there's no buts, but the guy had a bulletproof vest, and I didn't hurt him. I didn't hurt him, thank God, you know. But I did what I did. I ended up going to the penitentiary for that, you know. And I didn't smarten up that time. I just, you know, I went to higher learning when I went to the penitentiary. I learned things that kids shouldn't even be, you know, not in their ears, you know, because it's a higher learning for crime, and you just get better at what you do when you're in the situation you're in. You know, you got to do things that you don't want to do, but you have to in order to survive. So, yeah. I wanted to do a step 8 with Bob Celeste. That's his name, right? And unfortunately, he passed away because he had cancer. I found out during my sobriety because I wanted to do step 8 and 9 with him through AA. And yeah, I'm so sorry about he passed away.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Claude. Really appreciate it. Again, keep up the critical work that
Thank you.
you and James and others can do. Thank you. Great. Okay, I want to thank all our delegates today. I think that's our last delegate, Madam Clerk. Okay. I want to thank everybody for their time today, and whether online or in person, we do appreciate it. Moving into our agenda then, our first item is a report on the monthly update on supportive housing, addiction, and social action indicators. I'll turn it over to our CEO, Mr. Joe Dunford.
Thank you, Mayor Gillingham. With me today is Lizzie Rappaport, manager of our Housing Accelerator Fund, and she will speak to this item.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of EPC. So, you know, I'm here every month to report on progress. We're moving forward. As always, Table 1 outlines housing units approved through development applications, development permits, and building permits, and we are continually progressing upwards over last month. And Table 2 outlines building permits as they are defined under our agreement with the Housing Accelerator Fund and the Government of Canada. So we, again, are progressing upwards. So as of November 4th, we are at 66% towards our overall targets that we need to meet by December 2026. So we're well on track. If we look at both 2024 and 2025 years, we're at 106% of what we thought would come in over the last couple of years. So still 1 month left before we report to CMHC on the annual progress, but we are well on our way. I'll note we are over our actually 3-year target for both missing middle and multifamily other. We are under in single detached and multifamily within proximity to transit, but most of the projects we're supporting with grants and lands will come within the transit definition, which we expect to come in for building permits next year. So we're monitoring it, but are not concerned at this point.
Okay, thank you. Always appreciate these reports, and the tables are really, really helpful to watch and track our progress. So any questions at all on this item? I think the information seems pretty straightforward. It was published with the agenda some time ago, so everyone's had a good chance to review it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councillor Duncan, would you move receipt of this report, please?
Absolutely, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item number, I think 2, 3, and 4 are all extensions of time. Madam Clerk, is that correct? Yes. Okay, I'm wondering, Councillor Santos, if you would be willing to move concurrence with the extension of time requests on all 3 of these items?
Sure, I can do that. I'll move extension of times with respect to each of items 2, 3, and 4.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, Councillor Duncan?
To be recorded in opposition number 3, please.
Recorded in opposition number 3, okay. Those all pass then with the noted opposition on item number 3 from Councillor Duncan. Item number 5, amendment to the tax penalty bylaw 579691 and tax sale penalty bylaw number 8157-2002. Councillor Berwani.
Thank you. On both 5 and 6, actually, I'll move them together. I'll move the public service recommendations.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, carried. That's 5 and 6. Item number 7, appointment of city representatives to the City Council Benefits Board, the Convention Center Corporation, Winnipeg Police Pension Board, the Board of Trustees, the City of Winnipeg Civic Employees Benefits Program Pension and Disability Funds. Councillor Lukes, item 7.
Yeah, I'll move this one.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item number 8, Housing Accelerator Fund 2025 Status Report and Future Program Plans. Councillor Lukes?
I just have a question on this one.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, if I look at.
Oh, Lizzie's back. She's getting her steps in today. Yeah, come on
Yeah,
up. This is
Okay,
like
that's good. Okay.
Stairmaster. Up and down she goes.
Okay. So, I'm just, let me get, there's many pages to this report. So, on page 21, you start listing different projects and what they're for. So, if a person receives this funding and they say they're going to build, let's say, seniors housing, affordable seniors housing, or, you know, whatever they say they're going to be building in here, and they can't build it, what happens? Here's another one, Living Gospel, 33 using 17 units, prioritizing Black Canadians. What if they can't do that? Like, what happens?
So all of the projects that have been conditionally approved for grants under both rounds of the Housing Accelerator Fund, as well as the projects approved under a land enhancement program, which are outlined on page 26 and 27,
Yeah.
they've all been conditionally approved based on the proposal put forward. So they need to maintain, they cannot substantially deviate from the proposal they put forward. So that primarily looks at number of units, affordability level and number of affordable units, and the target population. Because we've approved these projects with the intention to provide a range of supports for housing of various populations. So they are required to maintain the proposal they move forward. If they do not, and they approach us and say, we're not planning to build this number of units or for this population, we would have to reconsider approval for the project under the program. So their support could be withdrawn.
Okay, good. And then I guess my other question is, when it's related to the infrastructure funding for, let's say, a project at Markham and Gull. So that funding for, I believe that one is a pipe, that opens up other area too, right? Like, it's not just these specific areas, they are opening up other areas in and around them, like say 1350 Pembina Highway at 5.6 million, right? So that it says here it opens up a broader area.
Correct, yeah. So for the project that's supported under the infrastructure program at Markham and Gull Lake Road, it's outlined in the appendix on page 28. So their project, phase 1 is 118 units, phase 2 is 145. And there is, we believe, a couple projects being contemplated, about 800 units that will all benefit from that one infrastructure improvement. So that is a very good investment. And similarly on 1350 Pembina, the 5.6 million, which is described on page 29, there's a map on page 30 of the full district area that's opened up with that investment. So while it's tied to one of our land enhancement projects, it opens up over 2 kilometers of Pembina Highway. So, you know, a priority urban mixed-use corridor in our city and along our BRT route.
So I'm a bit confused here on 1350 Pembina. On page 26, it says I see it's 72 affordable units, yet on the infrastructure one, it's a total of 140. So of the 140, 72 are affordable. Half of them are affordable. Okay.
Yeah.
And what level of affordability are they?
At the moment, they're just being contemplated to be at less than 80% the median market rent, which is the CMHC Affordable Housing Fund. Depending on where they get funding, they could go to a lower or a deeper affordability level. They are also contemplating building more than 140 units. They're doing some designs to see if they could go higher. But at this point, they've been approved for a minimum of 140 and 72 affordable.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I do note before you, I've got a couple of comments and a question. Let's see, I mean, this, Report 8 ties somewhat to the verbal updates we've been getting on, Report 1 and the regular monthly updates, but this is really, I think, the first serious Housing Accelerator report, or Housing Accelerator Fund report of note, and I would just take an opportunity to say that I think by all accounts and by all metrics, this program has been really successful. And so I want to acknowledge the federal government's $122 million contribution to the City of Winnipeg through this fund. Some significant transformation has already taken place. I think about the number of per-door grants and projects that have been successfully launched in both the first 2024 tranche and this 2025 tranche. It's really significant. I think that, as we heard it from Lizzie in the first report, we're certainly on track, and in some cases ahead of schedule on some of our targets. That's important. I think of projects like Portage Place, Waywanay, and soon Railside, all examples of really the transformative power of the program. I would, and I think what is actually one of the strengths of the program is the ability for our public service, as the case we see right now you were just talking about, to be nimble enough to adjust as needed. And maybe could you speak a little bit more as to why you think that the infrastructure program, as we initially imagined, didn't get some of the uptake or was undersubscribed in its initial go-round?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit to industry. So we launched this program, council approved it in December of last year, and the bylaw in January of this year. And then we launched in the spring. We only had 5 applications come in, and actually only 2 of those 5 were eligible under the bylaw. And as you see in the report, only 1 was able to actually move forward with eligibility for approval. We think in some conversations, certainly the speed to which we required projects to get to a building permit was probably the biggest barrier. So they needed to get to a building permit within 1 year of a conditional approval under our program. So the intent of the program was to accelerate stalled projects. We certainly heard from developers that, it wasn't enough time to get a new project developed and underway, which is certainly true, but was not the intent of the program. So speed was one challenge. We did hear a little bit that the focus on rental housing as opposed to condo units was a barrier for some developers. And the minimum size, so you had to have 50 units in a project. So one of the applications that came in was less than 50 units. I think it was 25. So those are, barriers that were cited by the development community, but I think the speed factor was the biggest one.
And some of those were conditions set not by the city, but by CMHC, correct?
Certainly.
This is not the city imposing. This is, again, a federal program that the city administers. Some of the rules around that program were determined and established by CMHC. Just to be clear about that.
Yeah. I mean, pretty well all of our programs are aiming for that December 2026 deadline that's imposed under the agreement.
Okay. I know we've got a ways to go. We've got some years to go on this and more tranches of funding to come forward, but I want to take an opportunity just to acknowledge the hard work and good work of many of our, folks within our departments, yourself, Lizzie, and Richard, and the entire team, but Director Hazel Boris, Director Jim Berezowski, Tim Shanks, or other directors as well, because it's kind of taken everybody to be part of this, and some really, really substantial progress, I think, has been made with more to come at a time when we really, really need housing. So, any other questions on this item? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you very much for this update here. Are there any projects that are at risk, and if they are, what happens to that funding?
I think it is too soon to say. There are certainly, well, I will say first, all of the projects that we've funded under the grant round 2 that are including affordable housing do not yet have CMHC funding approval. And there is some uncertainty about the future of that funding program as CMHC transitions to the new Build Canada homes. So we are watching that, but all of those have a deadline of the new year. So it's kind of too soon to say if they're fully at risk. There may be one or two that will have a challenge to secure additional funding. Everything else, I think, will be okay to move forward. If a project is not able to move forward, they could be issued an extension to get to their building permit, as long as it's within our criteria of meeting our CMHC expectations. Or the funding can be withdrawn, and the bylaw indicates that if funding is withdrawn, it should go to a project next in line. We had 66 applications come into this funding, and we approved about 25, including the downtown ones. So it would go to the next in line or to the city's land enhancement projects.
So the round 2 awarded projects, again, have a deadline of when?
Mid-January 2026.
Okay, so within 2.5, 3 months here. So the elephant in the room, we had a ruling from the Manitoba Municipal Board on one of these, specifically 22 Granite Way. What happens if that project does not move forward before that deadline?
I'm not going to comment on the municipal board decision yet. We're still discussing with legal.
Funding-wise, what happens to the dollars?
Funding-wise, yeah, if they can't meet a deadline, it would need to either have an extension granted or the funding could be withdrawn.
And is that strictly our extension, or who needs to grant
It would
that?
be, it's delegated to the CAO for approval for the extension.
Is there a deadline on how far that can be extended?
No, there isn't. But the intent is to, again, you know, as the mayor, you know, adequately pointed out, the deadline is December 2026. So if we're able to reallocate those funds to get units before that deadline, it would need to happen soon. You know, as I spoke on the infrastructure programs, certainly projects need a bit of time to be able to get moving and move towards building permits. So a little bit of time post that January date, but not much in order to reallocate it to projects that can meet that December 26th deadline.
So there's urgency here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions at all? Thank you. Appreciate that, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Councilor Duncan, would you move this, be received as info?
Yes. Sorry. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the work that went into this. It's very thorough. I'll move the recommendation to public service.
All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you. Item number 9 is in relation to Mother Earth Nature Park. Councilor Santos?
Yeah, just looking at some of the recommendations, it seems pretty plain and simple. A lot of work to be done with the area councillor and City of Winnipeg Forestry. It looks like it's going to be more fundraising through the community as opposed to requesting funding from the capital budget. And so I'll support moving this forward.
Okay, I'll support moving it forward to council as well today. Between now and council, I'm going to take a closer look at the map just to understand it. I need to really understand what lands are, being contemplated here. But for today, I'll move it forward. I'll support moving it forward, and as I said, have a closer look in the intervening time. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. Item number 10. Perhaps we could do 10 and 11 together, if that's possible, Councilor Duncan.
10 is the community committee recommendation. I'll move. And 11 is SPC recommendation that I will also move.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on now to the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste, and the Environment dated November 3rd, 2025. There are 3 reports, and I'd like to speak to Councillor 1. I'd like to speak to item 1, Councillor Eady.
It was my understanding that I would like to introduce it as well.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Explain why actually the committee decision was 2-2. So I'll kind of try to describe what that was about. All right, I'm going to move. First of all, what I'll do is, why don't I move report items 2 and 3.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 1, Councillor Eady.
Okay, item 1, the volume, the water and sewer volume rate for 2026 and 2027. We didn't really achieve a majority view on this at committee. One of the issues at play was the skepticism related to the city's ability to negotiate with the federal and provincial governments for their share of what we were projecting, and thus what we would end up with our sewer rates given Project 3 at the North End Water Pollution Control Center. And at that point, the skepticism was, well, there was a lot of MPs when there was FCM meetings in Ottawa and there was some lobbying happening, and one of my colleagues was concerned that a lot of people didn't understand the connection between dealing with wastewater and housing. So, but I watch carefully, and I know, Mayor, you watch very carefully. The federal budget was voted in, and constant mentioning of NUPIC. So we're looking forward to the mayor's office working with intergovernmental and convincing the province to jump online with that. And but things are looking good for those projections, and we were able to keep the rates down much more reasonably than the original proposal when we didn't have any potential for partnership at that point. So that's the report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We do have Mr. Tim Shanks, our director, here if anyone has questions for him related to this. I just want to make a couple comments, though. Thank you, Councillor Eadie, for your leadership as the committee chair on this critical matter. And Mr. Shanks can correct me if I speak in error on any of these matters, but we are at a place right now where we need a new rate report. We need new rates established and approved. We're just at that time. We have, I guess, options in theory. One, we could approve the original proposed rates, which would see the citizens of Winnipeg through their utility rates fund the entirety of the $1.5 billion third project or third phase of NUPIC. That would mean rates would climb over $1,000 a year for ratepayers, which would be crushing. We could theoretically say, let's pause the third phase, which is really not a viable option because that would be detrimental to see an incomplete project, the cost of which the third phase would only go up. We're not at a place where we can cancel this project, of course. And so what we have before us is, in my mind, the very best option. I want to thank our public service, Mr. Shanks and his team, for their work to bring forward and propose lower rates to maintain affordability. And that's the key. I know that's a concern to every member of this committee. I know it's a concern to every member of council. We need to maintain a measure of affordability for the residents and the ratepayers of Winnipeg. What we have in front of us is a report that maintains affordability and sees almost, far increases that are far lower, 2.8% in this coming year, as opposed to, was it 18 or 20%? I don't have it in front of me right. I have it in front of me, but I haven't looked at it. I don't have the page open in front of me. So this is absolutely the best option. I think it's not part of this report, but just recently, we had the report come from Mr. Matt Dryberg's office to talk about the economic return on investment for the federal government and the provincial government to invest in the third phase. And the ROI for the senior levels of government is substantial. And the ability to unlock and open up the economy of Winnipeg for the future and housing options for the future is only possible if we get the third phase of the plant built. And we're on a short timeline with arguably 2032 being the date or the year at which we run out of capacity if this work isn't done. So there's so many reasons to get this project done and to get these rates approved as proposed by the public service at this time. Just one other final comment. Just this weekend through the Grey Cup festivities, at the Grey Cup festivities, I was able to, for the first time, meet our Prime Minister Mark Carney. He shook my hand, made a comment on my suit, because I was in a suit, he wasn't. That's, neither here nor there. But his first comment to me was, I understand you need help with a wastewater plant. And my understatement was, yes, we do, Mr. Prime Minister, substantially. And the next day I saw him at the Grey Cup, and he made another comment again about the wastewater plant. So I want to thank everybody who has been pushing hard, the members of Parliament around the City of Winnipeg who've been pushing very hard, members of the public service, council members who've been talking at length about the need to get the third phase funded with provincial and federal funds assisting. Today, later this afternoon, we will hear the throne speech from the province of Manitoba. I will be looking for a statement related to the province's commitment to the North End Sewage Water Pollution Control Center and their commitment to assist us in funding the third phase. So this is the priority project for the City of Winnipeg. It has to be the priority project for the City of Winnipeg. We need the senior levels of government to assist us in funding. And this report says the citizens of Winnipeg will do their share to through a sewer and water rate increases to provide the funding. I think this takes a much better approach where we amortize the funding over decades. It's an intergenerational project. It will serve multiple generations of Winnipeggers for years to come as a key infrastructure asset to unlock, as I said, housing and future business and economic development as well. So I could go on and on about this. I'll stop, but just ask that we, unless anyone has any questions, that we call the question on this matter and put this forward to council for approval. Councillor Eady?
I'm just going to make one question, clarify. It was mentioned by Mr. Shanks, our director, and I'm just going to have him publicly confirm this. If we didn't move ahead with Project 3, is the biosolids plan that's already being worked on, would that work without the biological removal?
Thank you for the question. The Project 2, the biosolids upgrade that's underway right now, the progressive design build, is designing new digesters and new processes that are designed for biologically treated sludge. Right now we use chemically treated sludge. And the difference is, without getting into super technical detail, but the current kind of chemically treated sludge is bulkier. It takes up more volume, and it has chemicals sequestered in it. The biological sludge that will be produced as a result of Project 3 produces, for lack of a better term, a leaner sludge that will take up less volume. So the digesters we are building in Project 2 are being designed for a capacity that depends on Project 3 sludge. So yes, you're correct, they're interconnected in terms of capacity. Will they work on chemical sludge? I believe so, but they will run out of capacity. That's what the economic impact report was referring to in terms of Project 3's completion is needed. Otherwise, Project 2's new digesters will be out of capacity in the early 2030s. 2032, I think, is the date we were using.
Thank you. That's a good clarifying question, Councillor Eady. That shows the importance of these three projects working together. They're certainly integrated. Final comment is I will just say I want to commend council for having the courage to put forward in the budget the $500+ million in the capital program for this project. Part of the project's been kicked down the road for so long. This council's grabbing the bull by the horns and saying this has to be done. It's expensive, but it's about the future of our city. So thank you very much, everybody. With that, I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor,
Yeah, I move the recommendation, public service.
Councillor, do you want one more comment before we do that?
I know that we're criticized, whether it's us or previous councils, for not moving on this, but I think we've been moving on this for a long time. And sometimes it's very difficult to have other levels of government move on something that I don't want to say is at a crisis state, but this is almost at a crisis state. So sometimes that's what it takes to move big bureaucracies. And I think by us putting forward this $500 million, shows our serious intent and continuing to talk about it in a clear manner that is highlighting the fact that basically not much is going to happen, if anything, if we don't get our capacity increased. It really creates an awareness at these other levels of government. So I'm going to hold out optimism. I'm glad you had the conversation with the Prime Minister. I know you speak with the Premier a lot on this. And We are the economic engine of Winnipeg, so we need that
Manitoba,
support.
Yeah, economic.
Thanks for
Winnipeg's
your work.
economic, yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Eady has put forward the motion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the report of the Standing Policy Committee and Community Services dated November 4th, 2025. Councillor Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to pull number 1. There is an amending motion, so if it's okay, I'd like to move consent agenda item for items 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, I'll call the question on those items. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 1.
Yes. I think everybody has a motion for them? Okay.
Yes.
So if there's any, this is, from my understanding, is a cleanup motion that requires some amendments to the Parks Bylaw 85, 2009.
Okay, thank you. There are 2 items on this amending motion. One is related to the definition of tent, includes canopies and structures that are erected, placed, and otherwise set up for the purpose of sheltering persons from outdoor environmental elements. And then ultimately, another item number 4, appeal of the order of decision, provision for appeal is put in there as well. So, okay. So I'll call the question, unless anyone has a comment. Maybe, yeah, I was going to ask the CEO about the status of enforcement, but I won't. We'll just leave that for now and just kind of go to this specific motion, okay? So call the question on the item as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to take liberty as a chair and call an audible if I can, and just ask the CEO to make any comments related to, if you could, we started enforcement yesterday, so on these items, I see we have Greg McPherson here as well. Can you just maybe highlight where things are at with the enforcement and what the focus is of enforcement at this time? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gillingham and members of EPC. Yes, so yesterday, November the 17th, we did start our enforcement as per the encampment response protocol. There were 2 areas that we addressed yesterday. One was at 395 Pacific Avenue, and the other one was at Amman Creek behind Montana's. Both of those areas were cleared, cleaned, and vacated. And I'll hand it over to Greg if he has any other further comments that he would like to add to it.
Sure. Just to, Mayor, Council, good morning. We did start our enforcement efforts as per the motion that was passed on September 25th, and glad to report back that the protocol that we've established is still a work in progress, but we are fine-tuning it. Yesterday was a good opportunity for us to test how it would work. I think it went very, very well. We are still working as a partner with Your Way Home with the province. We're still trying our best to be sure that people are accessing housing. But we did see a marked difference in both of those sites yesterday. I will say the before and after. The impact on those neighbors and the community are substantial. Just glad to be able to house people and also help these neighborhoods have good access to these public spaces. We'll be moving this forward for the coming weeks, and hopefully even before council, we'll have more good news to report on how it's going.
Thank you. Our CEO has a couple before and after photos we're going to pass around. We'll get them into the record as well, so they're a matter of the record, Madam Clerk. So we'll need a motion then to add these to the record of this meeting. Motion to discuss new business. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for keeping us on track, Madam Clerk. And then we'll add these items as well. So just pass those down. Thank you very much. And then just on that item, Mr. McPherson, so we are working with obviously the outreach providers on this as well. So were they part of the discussion with these, I guess, encampment residents that were addressed yesterday?
Yes, so we've been working, we have currently an agreement with Main Street Project, so we've been working very closely with them to try to, wherever possible, make sincere offers of housing. So if we're going into an encampment, again, we're trying to approach that with passion. If housing is available, if people are willing to take the housing, ultimately that's in everyone's best interest. And so far, our efforts have been met with success on that front too. So MSP has facilitated access to housing for both of those encampments.
Okay, and approximately how many people do we know were in those encampments yesterday?
I think there were 3 who accessed housing through our work with MSP.
Okay, that's excellent. And then obviously, the ongoing work will be to make sure those, encampments don't set up in those locations anymore, because I guess if they set up, then we just do the same thing here?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think one of the remedies for that is that we've developed signage with our legal services department, and we've erected the signs at a number of sites, including the 2 that we vacated yesterday. But moving forward, as of yesterday, several sites have had signs posted. So it'll enable us to now work with the people at those sites to let them know that camping is no longer permitted. And in sites that have been cleared, we can always fall back on the fact that these are very clear signs. We'll replace signs that are missing, but people will know from this point forward that they're no longer allowed to camp at those sites.
You said one was Olmans Creek behind Montana's. What was the other one?
The other was 395 Pacific.
Pacific, 395 Pacific, okay. Okay, that's a good first 24 hours. We know that there's a long way to go yet here, but any other questions at all on this item? Okay, thank you very much to you and your teams, all your teams for the work. Thank you. Greg.
Thanks, Charles.
So, we'll just need a motion then to receive the verbal update. Councillor Santos as information.
Sure, so moved.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on then to the next committee. One second, please. I think we're moving then to Public Works, correct?
I'd like to pull number 1 and move number 2.
Thank you. So the report of Public Works is November 6, 2025. You want to pull 1 and 2, did you say?
No, just number 1 and
Okay.
just number 1.
I'll call the question on number 2, which is ride share loading zones. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item number 1, Winnipeg Parking and Mobility Strategy. Councillor Lukes, to introduce it, please.
Yeah, well, this is a long time coming. We've waited for a while. We had to go through the pandemic, then we had to go through the Transportation Master Plan, and the report came forward. A lot of it is strategies, it's concepts that there will be consultation on, which I like the fact that they identified where the consultation would occur. And I guess I just wanted to say we're a growing city, and we need to optimize parking spots on our public streets. The streets are public, they're not private for people's parking lots. And I think that what's been brought forward at a high level will help address that as our city continues to grow, as due to federal requirements, parking reductions on some of our corridors are in place now, and to council's decision on making that also. But we're a growing city, and we have to use and optimize our space. We've got new things that we never had before in years gone past, such as Ubers and Skip the Dishes and many, many, many more reasons to use our curbside parking. So I want to thank the Parking Authority for working on this and for coming up with the plan, and for the plan, identifying where consultation will occur. I take a lot of heat, you probably do too, but I take a lot of heat on not doing enough consultation on parking. People are very passionate about parking, and I think that this strategy really presents an opportunity for public input down the way. So I want to thank the department, and with that, I present the report.
Thank you. Any questions at all? We have the team here.
Full team. Oh, they were so
full
robust
team.
in their presentation. We have no questions.
No, it's a lot of work. I want to acknowledge the work of the team, Randy, you and the entire team here, and those who aren't here who have been part of it as well. Parking can be a contentious matter for cities, but it's a vital matter. And so thank you for all the work that you've done to this point as well. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question, Randy. We heard from a delegation today complaining about enforcement. I mean, you and I have had many discussions about Portage Avenue. It's a long stretch to enforce. We don't have, patrol at every intersection or every block. How can we do better, or how can we improve the enforcement piece in our parking strategy?
You know, we've certainly, and you're correct, Councillor, thank you for the question, that, the city is very wide. We do have limited resources where we can get to. Our ALPR units, camera units are very effective in monitoring a lot of the time-restricted zones, and now that we've switching over to no meters, we're going to be slowly getting into doing that enforcement as well, which again just expedites us getting out to these locations. It'll always be a challenge given the size of resource, because many times, although we encourage folks to report this through 311, we're actually meeting our target of 90 minutes for our SLAs to respond to these requests. The problem is a lot of times at the end of Portage Avenue, that's on the extremities, that by the time we get there, these vehicles could be gone. We also have to balance too. We do we work a lot with the school divisions and do a lot of proactive enforcement at those really peak times in the morning between 8:30, which is again challenging given that there's 280 or 300 schools that we actually rotate on a daily basis to go out to. So we're again at the point where we're balancing. Again, the robust connection through 311, we encourage the folks to continue to call that in, and it's not lost on us. I mean, the only other avenue would be to increase the enforcement size again above and beyond that to get to all of these calls. But again, it's just limited on the numbers of officers that we can have out and patrol, given the hundreds of kilometers that we actually oversee each day.
Councillor Duncan?
So moving forward, when we look at potential options for where we could have additional paid parking outside the downtown, has the public service identified at least, I'm not going to go street by street here, but potentially how many in numbers, more spots or areas that we could look at to have paid parking for, let's call a spade, to generate additional revenue?
I think right now, Council, that would be, that's part of the strategy is to go start working and doing, looking at things like, heat maps as to where we're actually finding these, challenges for enforcement and, getting that turnover. Really, the strategy outlines how we want to engage with the different biz groups so that we can address their concerns. I did hear some of the concerns from some of the delegates earlier that they don't want this to move out beyond the outside of the city. But I think to be fair for what we've recommended in the parking strategy, that we do need to have that outreach and discuss with the different business groups, as well as even the other city departments on how they actually plan, changes to roadways and what have you, and how they utilize that. So I think we'd be putting the cart before the horse if I want to try to venture into giving you opportunities where we may look at additional on-street paid parking locations.
And Mr. Mayor, just as a point of clarification, does the residential parking permit apply to paid parking on the street? If you have a residential parking permit, does that?
That's part of the criteria. If we introduce into new streets, that would be part of the criteria that we would give the opportunity for those residents to apply. There's still certain other criteria that we have in the background, but that would be one of the criteria that we would use to issue those parking permits.
So, to the mayor's point, of it not being, or sorry, I apologize, it might have been Councillor Luke saying that it's not their parking spot. If people are so attached to a certain parking area whether it be in front of their house or across the street, there is an opportunity to buy a residential parking pass so that they're not subject.
Currently, but again, given the infill housing developments, I think that is part of what we're going to be dealing with in our strategy. That's going to put additional challenges on residential streets that we will have to look at, whether we have to amend the criteria, whether certain streets are, would actually have the capacity for us to be able to issue that. Again, we're going to flush that out. That's something that has just come relatively new, and we're starting to see some of that impact. But again, that will be part of what this strategy is addressing.
My apologies, it was not my last question.
No need
I have
to
one more.
apologize.
So when we are rolling out this plan, and we are looking at multifamily with reduced parking ratios, is there going to be ongoing conversations with property and development to ensure that these struggles that Parking Authority and Public Works are facing when it comes to on-street parking, is that going to be clearly communicated? Although some around the table feel like everyone's going to take a bus or a bike where they're going, I'm not one of them, but is that going to be clearly communicated to property and development? And, as my time as chair, am I going to see that in the reports that here's a recommendation by Public Works and Parking Authority that we do need on-street parking and that we do need parking spots on these new development locations?
Agreed. I'm just going to let Ashley Williams make a comment.
So great question, Councillor Duncan. We do have a specific, we're calling a key result, so an action item in the strategy to address that, to develop a curbside management strategy. So that's going to really be led by the Public Works Transportation Division, but the idea there is we're going to bring together all the key parties within the city, whether it's transit, PP&D, Public Works for the active transportation, as well as parking, to figure out how do we address this when the city is growing. How do we manage the increased pressure we're going to have for on-street parking, whether it's in areas where you have residential parking permits, time-limited parking, or other areas. So the idea is really to spend the time with a variety of different departments together to come up with a strategy and have an ongoing working group that works together when these types of issues arise, and also how can we be more proactive as a city when new developments are happening and we can sort of foresee or plan for pressures on street. Do we add more car share vehicles in those areas, for example, because we do legislate that through Parking Authority, for example? Do we add more bike lanes, better transit? So really getting all the players together to address those types of things as we move forward.
Thank you for your work. One question I would have, part of the strategy, actually in advance of this report, was based on the data you had we made the decision as a council, supported it, to remove the physical parking meters from downtown. Increased signage went up as far as pay by app, pay by phone. We, I think, made the scratch cards more available in more locations. Now that we've, are a few weeks, months into this new approach, do you have any, and maybe I'm springing this on you, you may not have the data in front of you, but just could you give us a bit of a verbal update on how things are going, what's been happening now that we have moved to more kind of no meters, but the zones?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks
Sign.
for the question.
Yeah.
I'll give it back to you in this context. We have about 5,000 new users with pay by phone before the pay stations were removed this summer. Since we removed the pay stations, we're seeing 10,000, 11,000 new downloads every month. So August, September, and we just got a report.
Did you say every month?
Every month.
So 10 to 11,000
So we were
new
about,
downloads of the app every
4
month.
to 5,000 was our average. And then, of course, it just doubled, which I was surprised by that too, if that's why we're kind of joking about it. So our October report was over 11,000 new downloads. We're also doing a lot more work with our community. So we have another in-person session at the Transcona Council Center. There's about 45 people that are coming in attendance. And really what we've learned through this whole project is that people just want to know how to do it.
Right.
People want to know how to download the app and then how to make a parking session. So that's really what the intent is this week, is to go out there and just be more with our community and help them through and guide them through that process.
Okay, great. And what's the, is there more demand for the scratch cards, or is that actually dropping off,
Yeah,
or
no.
just, yeah?
Yeah, so at the beginning, we probably sold like 300 to 400 booklets. And I think last month it was 200. So they are dipping just slightly. I think there was a reaction this summer to purchase them, but we've seen like a bit of a decline.
And what about the relationship, I shouldn't say, the communication between the department and businesses that have on-street parking in front of them? How, you know, what's happening there?
So we're actually going to be trialing a new module, which is a validation module, and we've been speaking with the King's Head and also the Faculty of Dentistry at HSC, where they're seeing some challenges with people coming to get some dental work or free dental work at the hospital. So we have a validation module that we're going to be turning on, which means that if you do an in-store purchase, your parking will be discounted. So we've been out there talking to the businesses and trying to fill that gap or serve them in a better way that will work for them.
Thank you. Randy, you and I had a brief conversation on the way in to work one day about that concept, and maybe that's something, like for example, Graham Avenue, maybe that's something that could be applied at a place like that if
Absolutely.
warranted.
And that's actually our conversation. I think that is a spot that we could perhaps, you know, build another strategy to, again, help that business community that's been challenged with the, you know, the removal of the buses and less foot traffic.
Okay. Any other questions related to this, folks? Okay. My final comment, I'm going to just thank Randy for something completely different. This weekend was a great Grey Cup weekend. But what it took was thousands of volunteers, or certainly hundreds of volunteers across the city to pull it off. And Randy was one of those volunteers that I saw at the convention center, giving of his time kind of after hours to make the Grey Cup Festival successful. I know he wasn't alone. There were many others across the city who did that. So thank you to you and to all other City Winnipeg employees who maybe in any way participated in making it such a great weekend and successful. So thank you.
It was a wonderful event and great to talk to all the people from across the province and also to see how well that, and from getting the feedback from these people from other provinces, how well Winnipeg presented the Grey Cup. They said it was memorable and that probably the best one they've been at. So I really enjoyed it and again, great for the City of Winnipeg.
Thank you. It's going to take years to get over the fact that the Riders won in the Palmer Stadium, but I digress. Thank you. Motion then on this matter, Councillor Lukes?
Okay. Motion put forward.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on today to the report of the St. Policy Committee on Property and Development, dated November 7th, 2025. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, if there's no opposition, I will move consent agenda items 1 through 9.
I'd like to,
Councillor Eady?
I need to ask a question regarding report item 2.
Item
We're
2?
filing the expropriation of the LeMay
Sure.
Forest, but
Okay. Let's move, we'll call the question then on 1, 3 through 9 inclusive. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 2, and we do have our Director Hazel Boers here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Perhaps Councillor Duncan, you can just introduce item number 2, please, and then Councillor Eady can ask his question.
Yeah, sure. So this was a item that was coming back to our committee to advise on the LeMay Forest property. I will let our director explain further, but essentially there is no update, and the public service is obligated to update the Standing Policy Committee on any updates. So, Madam Morse.
So before the director speaks.
Sure, Councillor Eady.
So I think, we were looking at moving along, but the provincial government decided, and I do believe that LeMay Forest land is going to become a provincial park, I believe. But we were looking at, we own some land around close to LeMay Forest, and I just wanted to confirm if we are going to provide that to the provincial government to make a provincial park bigger, better experience, and if we did that, can we include that in adding extra acreage for parks within the city of Winnipeg?
Sorry.
Thank you. Through you to the counselor, we don't have that level of information yet. At this point, we are reporting back just to indicate that the province intends to abandon the expropriation for the city land and wants to purchase it for $1. The public service is supportive of this in principle, but would like to have more details from the province before recommending the sale. An advisory group is intended to be informed and to be formed in order to discuss the provincial park concept further. And of course, any sale of parkland requires 2/3 council approval. And so this will not appear on the agenda again until we have further information from the province. How the parkland as a whole for our Winnipeg and the addition of the 1,000 acres of parkland, it's not very precise in how that parkland is counted. So it would be really at the direction of council on how you want to consider that. But certainly the green space master plan and biodiversity bylaw that is ongoing in co-development with 6 regional Indigenous nations and groups would certainly opine or weigh in on this issue as well, once we have more information from the province.
Okay, thank you very much. That was any other questions related to the LeMay matter? Okay, I'll call the question on this item then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Thanks, Hazel.
Yes. Councillor.
Nothing to do. We're through the reports here, but I just wanted to note that the department, under the leadership of Hazel Boris here, has now moved to our permitting system being drastically updated and going online. If there are any comments at all that you'd like to offer that are exciting for our development community. I know.
I'll move some.
It's part of
new
number
business.
6. The word
I'll move
permits
new
is on
business.
item number 6.
Item number 6. I
It's about
apologize.
permits. There we go. Okay, that's good. Thank you. That's a good update, and appreciate the work that, if you want to comment on that at all?
Sure. Thank you for the question. You know, it's been very much a team effort using the Housing Accelerator funding sources in order to really amp up our online presence, but also in tandem with that, we, as you may know, back in March, did a soft launch for the concurrent review of development permits and building permits. In the first 151 through that system, it has reduced the time by approximately half on average. Of course, some would be much slower, others would be much faster. So as a part of the ongoing permits online updating, we are now, instead of 6 paper copies received of plans in person, now you're able to do that electronically. So that saves us a lot of time for distributing it to all the different city departments that need to have a chance to review. And then it also helps applicants be able to follow their processes easier. It also is, you know, cost savings and easier on the environment as well. So we will continue to upgrade that process in the months ahead. The preponderance of them, though, are through for the most frequently used building permits and development permits. Also, we have increased our open data portals so that folks can keep track on how quickly we're responding to things and, you know, always looking for ongoing ways to increase the speed.
Thank you.
That's great. I appreciate that. This is really about better, enhancing, improving customer service at the end of the day. So thank you to you and your team for doing that. Appreciate that. In all fairness to our clerk, who's
Sorry,
doing a great
Madam
job.
Clerk.
No, that's, I'd like to have a motion then to discuss a new item. Thank you very much. Item has been, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. And then to motion to receive this verbal update.
Yes, move to receive the verbal update on permitting.
Thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate this.
Thanks, Hazel.
Final item is the report of Policy on Finance, Economic Development. Dated November 10th, there's no report, and so consent agenda and adjournment. Councillor Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Thank you. We are adjourned.